in the 8th Parliament, under President Akufo-Addo, Right Honorable Speaker made an observation, very profound, that matters Right Honorable Speaker observed that communications to the House must first be known to the House before it gets into the media. This House should not be a secondary recipient of that which is its bona fide. I do not appreciate the fact that a statement will be issued when Parliament has not already received the communication. Parliament should be the first to receive the communication before it gets out into the media. And that was the position taken by Right Honorable Speaker. So I would want to draw attention of the executive to this matter, especially when the acting spokesperson of the executive is one of our own, my own respected colleague, Felix Sofozu-Kwakye, very, very resilient guy. He doesn't fall easily. He knows his stuff, and he knows what he's about when he's doing his politics. I respect him. Mr. Speaker, the second observation is the fact that the second observation is the fact that when the names were read out by Mr. Speaker, he read out only 3 names. The Finance Minister designate, the Energy Minister designate, and the Attorney General and Minister of Justice designate. Mr. Speaker, this thought appointment is unacceptable. Mr. Speaker, this is a government that promised a 24-hour economy in opposition. They told us that they were ready for government. Mr. Speaker,
Honorable Minority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, indulge me.
Honorable Minority Leader.
Yes, indulge me.
Honorable Minority Leader.
Is that how you are starting it?
Please.
Let me finish.
Honorable Minority Leader.
Yes.
I'm just indulging you because you are a leader. This is a time slotted for correction of vote and proceedings.
Yeah, with your leave. I took your leave. Honorable Haruna Idrisu used to slot this in. I'm doing that. Mr. Speaker, this government, I'm talking for you, please, it's for you. Mr. Speaker, this government promised a 24-hour economy. Mr. Speaker, we expect them to be ready from day one. Mr. Speaker, you cannot start energy, finance, attorney general. When are the rest of the ministers? You must be ready. We want to hear Ama Kofi Bua. We want to hear Agric. We want to hear Agric Ministry. Honorable Eric Opoku.
Honorable Leader.
Honorable Eric Opoku.
Honorable Minority Leader.
We want to hear Agric Ministry. We want to hear roads and highways.
Honorable Minority Leader.
We want to hear lands and natural resources.
Honorable Minority Leader.
Education. Mr. Speaker,
I recognize the Deputy Leader on his feet. Deputy Leader, are you on point of order?
It has today nominated 3 persons to hold key positions in his cabinet. Joining me in studio to have a conversation around these minister designates or minister nominees, my colleagues Sami Wiafe and Fred Tete Javano. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Great. So, well, not too much of a surprise. I mean, we would have done our own permutations here, and we have a fair idea of some persons who will make it into John Dramani Mahama's government. But Mr. President has given us some timelines, and it appears as though he's dedicated or committed to respecting these timelines. So we've seen the first batch, Dr. Kesiolato Forsen, John Abdullahi Jinapo, and Dr. Dominic Ayene. Fred, let me start with you. Tell us about these gentlemen. I mean, in no particular order, whichever comes to mind, you can guess.
So let's start with the finance ministry, and even with the appointments, you realize that the names or the offices which these people have been appointed to are very important offices. When you look at the discussions in the last few days, I'm not surprised that we have the president naming the finance minister, the energy minister,
and the attorney general minister for justice.
You know, we have a budget to be presented.
Exactly.
Government would need to present a budget. The president will need to present a budget. And once you started running your government and you've taken over office, you've seen and heard a lot of the issues within the country and the governance system. You need to plan on how you're going to run the country. You cannot run the country without money. So it is very important to have a finance minister who you would sit with to draw up a budget on how you're going to run the country for the next 1 year. You look at the issues concerning the energy sector. The president was sworn into office. The very day he was sworn into office, the now nominated Minister for Energy hints about the fact that we are heading into a crisis, an energy crisis, because we didn't have fuel reserves, and the fact that there was an issue with WAPCO, and how we had to deal with. So we're heading potentially into doomsday. You needed an energy minister to resolve this matter, to deal with this matter. It comes to dealing with the various partners in terms of agreements. Already we are told that we have been, the government has spoken to the West African pipelines to engaging them to see whether there could be another postponement of that shutdown,
the scheduled maintenance work.
We don't know where that has happened, what has happened to that. But then you've been having to deal with people, other companies, oil companies, people who are going to bring you these fuel and light oil for your plants. You need the agreement for that. Yes, you could engage the Attorney General's office, but then you would want to engage people with a substantive minister or somebody who you know would fill the office. Right. So the three names or offices or ministries which have been mentioned and have been named are very important,
very key,
very important within the state of affairs of the country at this particular moment. Now let's come to the names and the people who have been nominated. Let's start with the finance ministry. Dr. Kesela Tuforsin. Dr. Kesela Tuforsin, as we speak now, is the majority leader in Parliament. What is his background? He's a finance person. He has a bit of an economics background.
He's an economist, a chartered accountant, tax practitioner, yes, and a 5-term lawmaker.
Yes. So a tax practitioner, a finance person, an accountant, an economist. At this point in our country's life, we need somebody with all these experiences. A tax person, because don't forget, the president during the campaign promised to deal with some of the taxes he says were nuisance taxes. For example, the e-levy. We talk about the what do you call it? The other taxes.
Yes, the emissions levy, the COVID levy, the 10% tax,
the vetting tax, and all of them. This is someone who has a tax background. This is someone who has an accounting background. This is someone who has a finance background. But let's go to his background as a political appointee. He served in the Ministry of Finance under the first tenure of John Mahama. He worked under Setekpe, who was then minister. He had been in Parliament on the Finance Committee for a long time. At a point, became ranking member of the Finance Committee when the party went into opposition. He had been leading the party's fight on the finance grounds. On the finance grounds, he was the one who was the go-to person anytime there were issues with the finance ministry. You recall, during those conversations, those public lectures by John Mahama, Afenyo-Markin was the one who was chosen to speak on finance issues. So yes, when it comes to the finance ministry, it's no surprise that Kessel Afenyo-Markin has been named finance minister. You also look at the fact that when there was a reshuffle in Parliament, in the leadership of Parliament, one of the reasons the party gave was the fact that Afenyo-Markin was a finance guy. Going into the elections, they believed that the major conversation was going to be about the economy. So you needed someone who understood the economy, who could speak about the economy, to take charge of Parliament. So it comes as no surprise that Kessel Afenyo-Markin has been named finance minister. We go to the energy ministry. The energy ministry, John Jinapor. John Jinapor was a deputy power minister under the Mahama first government from 2013 to 2017. He served as deputy power minister. Whilst in opposition, he served as ranking member on the energy committee. He was also the go-to person to most of the energy power issues. He spoke about a lot of these things, raised concerns about power agreements, raised concerns about issues of Dumso at the time when we were facing some power issues under the Akufo-Addo government. He raised concerns. He was very vocal in the issues of the energy sector. It came as no surprise that even on the day that the president was sworn in, he was the one who came out to announce that there were no reserves. There was a shortage of fuel, and if we do not take care, we're going to be plunged into darkness. So yes, John Jinapor has played his role within the power sector. You even look at his background. He's also a finance person. He's had a bit of a stint with the energy studies about energy and everything. So if you look at the NDC right now, there are a number of people have mentioned the names of Ahmad Kofi-Boah, who used to be energy minister, as one person who could have, as one person who could have been sent to the energy ministry. One, based on the previous position as energy minister, based on his region he was coming from, the western region, and also based on the fact that he was also a bit vocal. But when you look at all the mix, even in Parliament, John Jinapor has been very vocal, more vocal than the others when it comes to the power sector. You had Ahmad Kofi-Boah over there, but John was made the minority, ranking member on the committee. So for him now being chosen or being nominated as energy minister,
I think he was even the energy person on the transition team.
Yes, he was the chairman of the energy committee on the transition team. So it comes as no surprise. When we come to the Attorney General, and you look at the NDC and all the people you had, the minister at the time, during Mahama's first term, Marietta Buropon, was named as the president's legal counsel, the advisor to the president, legal counsel. So then he opened the space for a new person to be mentioned or to be named. But you see, when you look at all for the last 4 years or 8 years, whilst the NDC was in opposition. Another go-to person on legal issues, constitutional issues, was Dominic Ayene. Dominic Ayene was very vocal. His experience within the ministry as deputy minister, his experience as a technocrat, his experience as someone who taught the law, and his experience in Parliament, it came as no surprise that he had been mentioned. Before these, there were rumors of other names being put out within the public. You had Mahama,
Eduji Tamaklo.
You had Eduji Tamaklo. But you see, even with Eduji and the rest, they are far junior to Dominic Ayene. Mahama Yaiga, a very brilliant law practitioner. But you look at the practice properly. When you put Mahama Yaiga on one side, and you put Dominic Ayene on the other side, and you look at the one who has practiced more, you cannot take it away from Dominic Ayene. He has been in the ministry. He knows the workings of the ministry. He's engaged the officers of the ministry. So and don't forget that the NDC now has a task based on a promise to prosecute people they believe have committed criminal acts, people they believe have stolen government resources. They put in the oral to be the committee to set the grounds for the prosecution and investigations into some of these malfeasance that they believe had taken place within government. So naming somebody like Dominic Ayene, who has been in the ministry, who has led prosecution in the ministry, is no surprise. So for me, the three people who have been mentioned, they do not come at a surprise already at all. They are people who are well known within the spaces which they've been nominated to go and head and lead. They are people who are quite popular within the party for some of these engagements and conversations on the various sectors. So I think that the President, John Mahama, is going with people he's comfortable with. Don't forget, he says that he wants to name one of the youngest cabinets ever. You look at John Jinapor, quite young. You look at Kesla Atoforsen, quite young. Dr. Dominic Ayene, you cannot describe as quite, he's a senior man, but I mean in Ghana here, anybody can tell you I'm relatively young. So yes.
Young at heart.
Yes, I think the first three appointments and the names which have been mentioned comes as no surprise to me, and I'm sure it comes as no surprise to a lot of people. The issue is whether they will be able to perform their duties as expected. Being in opposition and having to oppose and propose solutions is not the same as being the minister and implement those proposed solutions. So we wait to see how they would perform within the ministries.
Right. Sami, let me come to you. I mean, the president gave us 14 days to name his cabinet, and it's only day 2 in office, and we've seen the first 3. But let's look at the positions he has made nominations to and how key they are, owing to the conversations as established by Fred already, the economy one, energy, and also legal matters. I'll come to you on that, but I understand Aduji Tamaklo is joining us via telephone. He's Director of Legal Affairs, National Democratic Congress, NDC. Good afternoon, sir, and thank you so much for your time.
Nana, good afternoon.
Good to have you. Good to have you. Let's start off from where you are mostly familiar, the Office of the Attorney General and the Minister for Justice. Honorable Dr. Dominic Ayene, what do you make of this? Earlier, we had heard rumors that you were going to go there. We don't know how far that went. But, I mean, this nomination of Dr. Ayene to be the Attorney General and Minister for Justice, your initial thoughts?
The Honorable Dr. Dominic Ayene, first of all, as you are aware. Hello?
Yes. Council, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
As you are aware, he's my senior partner in the law firm. The partnership involves myself, Ayaga, and him, constituting Ayene and Partners Law Firm. And I've worked with him. He was my lecturer at the law faculty, and I came and I studied and worked with him. He brings to the office that level of dignity that is required by an attorney. And for me, I want to thank A.T. John Dramani for this laudable, dignified elevation. Remember that he was the deputy when A.T. John Dramani Mahama was the president on the 2016. And so that's the dignity that is the experience. You see, the office of the Attorney General has its own politics. And so you need that experience to appreciate the politics within that office. And the Honorable Dr. Dominic Ayene has more than enough when it comes to that experience.
He has been in the space before, having served as deputy, and of course we can attest to the wealth of experience he's bringing. But for you, and of course the agenda of John Dramani Mahama, which has taken effect with the setting up of the oral committee and all. How do you see Dr. Dominic?
As you can see, the Honorable Dr. Dominic Akrosinga appreciates what it takes to go ahead with the peace. Remember that it was when he was deputy AG together with the boss, Marietta, that they persuaded all these leaders and staff to retrieve money. They persuaded the National Service Council and retrieve money. So they have the experience when it comes to issues of asset treating and the rest. So I have absolute confidence that he will succeed.
And on international matters as well, we know that, of course, the work of the Attorney General will not be limited to local matters, prosecution, and, of course, retrieval of assets and all that. There will also be international legal matters to attend to.
And but remember that the Attorney General is the principal legal advisor to that. To do the international treaty. We are members of various international organizations, so one it means that we have a obligation. Because we are doing the deputy report, it comes with our risk experience to the office. And so this is a very smooth movement. And if you look at the experience, it gives you an indication of the priority of AG John Dramani, the economy, the economy, the economy, the economy. Energy, and remember, law. And so these three underscore the key priorities of AG John Dramani to get the economy on its feet immediately, to get our power system stabilized, and to ensure greater respect for the rule of law, respect for human rights, and Ghana's commitment to the national. And so I am really looking to win the first game.
Very well, Council. I mean, it's interesting that you've mentioned, you've put the three together and spoken to it. I was going to ask you about how critical it is that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama's first appointment will have to be for finance, energy, and the AG's department, as well as the Minister for Justice.
Maybe I was engaged in clairvoyance, so to see where you were going.
Perhaps. But then how critical is this? I mean, we know that this is the agenda JDM wants to prosecute, but how critical are these first three appointments?
Again, like I said, the economy is everything. And we know the state of the economy. The Honorable Minister has supported, having been Deputy Finance Minister before, appreciated that. Remember that for many years, he was the ranking of finance, having become also the minority. His understanding of the peculiar Ghanaian economy is without doubt. I have always maintained. If you look at the warning that the Honorable Minister has reported gave, they have gone. If they are even taken a little bit, will not be where we are. So this one, it is like the herbalist who is sick, he is going to cure himself. And so thankfully, AG John Dramani Mahama has put at the finance ministry a man with enormous understanding. The Ghanaian economy is peculiar. And this man understands the economy. I am very confident that we have what it takes to change things around. I am so confident that you have no doubt. And same applies to the Honorable John. As you know, he has also been a deputy minister within the same position. Appreciate the issues with our energy. For the past 8 years or so, the past 4 years, we have been advanced on energy. So all the related matters, there are deep appreciation of them. And I strongly believe you bring all of this to bear, more so as you are aware of the current challenge that we have. I'm so confident that this team is a fantastic team.
His Excellency John Mahama has promised that 60 ministers. He wants to set up the most lean and efficient government ever. Also promised us a very young a cabinet. Out of the 60, these are the first 3 that we are hearing of, leaving 57 more to go. Where should we expect to hear your name?
As you are aware, the appointing authority remains A.T. John Dramani. He has the experience of putting together a team that can deliver on the respect promises to the people of it. I want to trust and support his judgment that ultimately, when the judgment fall in place, he and DSO will decide who and who will constitute his first 11. Always remember that in a case, you are most likely going to have persons who will be on the reserve. They may never get to this place, but they will be on the reserve. Like I said, these were deputies between 2030 to 2020. Today they are fantastic. You can always ask God for life when they come.
Council, before we let you go, let me digress a little bit and ask you about preparations for that hearing of the stay of execution regarding the disputed parliamentary results.
We are even at the Supreme Court on the 14th. Yes.
Fully prepared?
I have we have this law lecture. We used to tell us as a lawyer, you must have what you call ambulatory law. The law that when you are speaking to this court, you remember. So basically, that's what it is.
Council, thank you so much for your time. Always a pleasure talking to you. We wish you well. Godwin Eduji Tamaklo, Director of Legal Affairs for the National Democratic Congress, NDC, speaking to us there regarding John Dramani Mahama's first appointments or nominations to ministerial positions, which will cover the Finance Ministry, Energy Ministry, Attorney General's Department, and Minister for Justice. Dr. Kesi Latufosen has been nominated as Minister Designate for Finance, John Abdullahi Jinapo, Minister Designate for Energy, and the Honorable Dr. Dominic Akuritinga Ayene, Minister Designate for Justice and Attorney General. Sami, just before we spoke to Council, I was asking about how critical it was for these 3 ministries to be the first appointments made by John Mahama.
Very, very important, and I want to make submissions in reference to some of the things, Fred mentioned in his submission, and these are very important, cabinet positions in every administration. Finance, Energy, and Attorney General's Department are very, very important appointments that every administration is expected to have. And when we look at these individuals, they were chairpersons of the various subcommittees of the transition team.
Yeah.
And what's has been made to believe or known, or the practice is that anytime you are made, as a chairperson or a sub chairperson to any of these transition, committees, subcommittees, you automatically assume, that appointment.
It's most likely that you take up the ministerial role.
Because you are the one, fronting for that ministry on the other side. Yeah. You've been to the ministry already, you know what's happening there. So it's most likely that you have all the briefs from the outgoing minister. So obviously you must serve as the minister for that particular ministry. And so I'm not surprised that, these individuals are going to these various ministries, because during the transition period, I saw a number of them, all these individuals at these transition committee meetings, having series of meetings with the outgoing ministers. And so when this list came out, I wasn't really surprised that these individuals are going in there. And as Fred mentioned, these are individuals who serve as deputy ministers in the various, ministries that they've been appointed or nominated to go and serve. Dr. Atoke, so former Deputy Finance Minister, he was allegedly involved in the ambulance scandal and the rest, and he was being prosecuted for that particular purpose. We all know the outcome of that particular one. He served in that ministry for a long time. He still has a relationship with individuals or persons within that ministry. And so going back...
He's actually served on the Finance Committee of Parliament for a long time.
And so going back to that same ministry is not really a problem. He's just going to have it a bit easy there because he still has, relationships in there. You're talking about Dr. Ayene, former Deputy AG, also has a number of relationships with persons, still at the ministry. So going back there will be easy. It's very easy for him. John Jenapo, in the thick of the Doomsday crisis under John Mahama, he was made deputy, power minister in charge of, power and the rest. He still has good, relationship with the IPPs. Anytime issues of energy, comes up, you hear me. So my sources within this will mean that he still has relationship within these people, and he's the best person I feel will be able.
But we know there's a technical team looking into the power issue now. I understand he is the current chair.
And the subcommittee, he was the chairman of the energy sector. I saw him a number of times having conversation with Herbert Krapper, the outgoing, minister on this particular. Outgone. He's gone. Sorry, outgone. I had a conversation with Herbert Krapper, outgone energy minister. On these number of things. So these appointments are very important because President Mahama has promised us a 24-hour economy. In a 24-hour economy, you need energy, you need power to drive a 24-hour economy. Introducing a 24-hour economy, you need someone who understands the economy very well. And Dr. Atoforsen is known to understand the economy, is known to a lot of people as a finance guy, the go-to guy. So if President Mahama is bringing a 24-hour economy, you need someone who is able to drive this particular policy. And Dr. Atoforsen is the right person, if you ask me. 24-hour economy, you need the laws, legislation, and interpretation. Dr. Ayene has proven himself over the years. And I think he was the chairman of the subsidiaries of Parliament. They deal with this number of things, laws and the like. And so in this same position, it's most likely that he's the one going to begin with. So for me, Nana, right appointment for President Mahama, elevation, from person who served as deputy ministers in his previous administration, coming to serve as main ministers now, still will have control of the ministry, will still have people in there who will feed them with information and everything, right? I think it's a good appointment. President Mahama has got it right in the first start. We hope that the subsequent appointment will also be accepted by, number of Ghanaians on this thing. He's promised 60 ministers. Let's hope and pray that he will go according to the 60 ministers as he promised.